When you consider that the modern rotary mixer scene was largely kicked off by a Frenchman, then any new design which hails from that country has a lot to live up to. Welcome to Beatsource Tech. My name is Mojaxx, and in this episode we're looking at the Precision 04 from Mojaxx Electronics. Yes, although rotary mixers were there from the birth of DJing as we know it, with Uris and Mojaxx being the staples of the disco world, faders had pretty much taken over by the early 2000s. But that's when Jerome from ENS in Paris began working with DJ Deep to create the DJR400, a desktop format rotary which I would argue opened the door to the whole rotary scene that exists today. But unless I'm forgetting something, we haven't seen any other rotaries coming out of France in the intervening years, and so the Precision 04 from Mojaxx Electronics is notable for that reason just to start with. The company is basically a one-man operation, that man being Florian from the south of France, who is an experienced audio electronics specialist. And although the Precision 04 is his first commercially available mixer, it's obvious that the guy knows his way around a circuit or two. Let's get the basics done. The Precision 04 is a fully analog 4-channel rotary mixer with a separate mic channel. It costs €2,380 plus shipping, which is definitely in the higher tier of this category, but absolutely competitive with similarly spec'd mixers from the likes of Condenser and Resor. As each unit is handmade to order, you can expect delivery around 14 weeks after you pay your deposit, again pretty standard in this market segment. My initial impressions were very, very strong. The Precision 04 is a chonky boy, measuring almost 14 inches square, and so absolutely demands your attention. But what's very quickly apparent is just how much attention to detail has been paid to everything. The aluminium faceplate is anodized and available in natural or the black you see here, and all the markings are laser engraved so they won't wear off over time. The wood is available in black, natural or stained, and is sourced from a local sawmill. One aspect that really stands out is the knobs, and those aren't off-the-shelf designs, but instead locally machined from 6061 aluminium bars. They are as big as they look on camera, by the way, and I'll talk more about them in the demo. The VU meters are lovely and very high quality. They are buffered from the audio signal and can be spec'd with either a fast transient response, which is what the review unit has, or slow depending on your preference. A quick side note, the Precision doesn't have gain controls. This is in the vintage rotary style where unity gain is around 7 on the channel pots. That gives you plenty of headroom for quieter or louder pressings. Most of the connectors are from Neutrik or Reen, and the mixer features Alps Blue Velvet pots, a perennial favourite on the rotary scene. And the final external aspect of the build is the switches, which are Miyama MS500 series models. These have a much longer lifespan than the typical Alps push type switches and have proper DC decoupling to avoid clicks and pops when activated. Overall, the build quality on the Precision 04 is simply immaculate. I would say perhaps the best I've seen on any mixer that I've tried to date. As I said before, attention to detail is just off the charts here. The mixer itself is big, and so is the external power supply. It's a linear unit and it connects to the mixer with a locking 4-pin connector. It does get a little warm in extended use, but that's to be expected, and it's never concerningly so. Each Precision 04 comes with a travel case which holds the mixer and the power supply, so you won't have any issues transporting it. In terms of connectivity, the Precision 04 has separate line and phono inputs on each of the 4 channels on RCAs, and there are 4 grounding posts too, which always makes life a little bit easier. The send and return loop has a single TRS jack socket each for input and output. I would generally prefer to see separate left and right sockets for convenience, but I get that space was limited, and as long as you have the correct cables, which I did, it works just fine. There is an aux/record output on RCAs which has its own level control, then booth is on balanced jacks and the master is on balanced RCAs. Enough options there for most situations. And finally around the front you get a 1/4 inch jack for the headphones and another XLR for the mic channel. At this point I'll run you through a quick demo of the Precision 04, then we'll come back and talk about the all-important sound. Right, let's run you through the functionality here on the Precision 04. As with most rotaries, it's all about simplicity really, but there are a few things to note. One thing I will say, you've got these different sizes of knobs. Now they do contribute to the impression of this thing being a real chonky boy, and it is a chonky boy, like it's a big mixer, even for a 4-channel. These knobs are huge, but I wasn't expecting to like them very much because I normally prefer, you know, like a standard issue rotary knob, like a, you know, with knurling on the side or something like that. I thought these big just aluminium knobs I wasn't going to be a fan of, but actually having used it, I really like them. They're so big and so tall as well that they just feel great. There's so much leverage there. You feel like you've got so much control with it, and I just really enjoy that. It's great. The smaller knobs do have knurling around the outside for a bit of grip, but yeah, you don't need it on these big ones because they're just that big. It's like mixing on an oven from the 1950s. And it all contributes to that real retro vintage aesthetic, and I love it. I actually love it. You know, this thing is designed to make a statement, and it does. It absolutely does, and it feels that way too. Great curve on those rotaries, as you would expect. Then we have bass and treble controls for each channel. It's a full cut on the bass and a -12 on the treble, with +12 on both. Plenty of sound shaping possibilities, either in the mix or just to, you know, take care of old pressings that aren't quite there. They're a little bit thin, you've got plenty of extra bass to add. They're a little bit shrill, you can kill that treble a bit or boost it a bit. Yeah, lovely, lovely. Then we move up, we've got the cue in and out for each one, and these switches again, proper retro, proper old school. You can hear them clicking, you know, that's that physical click. You always know that you've got it in the right position, and those apply to all over. Same switches everywhere. That's not any kind of audible pop, by the way, in the mixer. That's just purely the sound of the switch. And then we've got the, so yeah, cue master switch up here to go between your cue signal and the master, and of course you can cue multiple channels at once. Plenty of headroom on the headphone volume, loads to play with. No split cue, but that's not really expected on a Rotary, so I'm all good with that. I love the fact we have a separate aux/record output level knob. That's really useful. Booth output, master output. Let's get into the send system. So we've got send and return. So with the send on each channel on a knob, so no issues with, you know, you're not going to have any problems with, you know, switching it on and off and any noise introduced there. It's just a smooth introduction. And it is post fader. Now, you know, there are definitely advantages for pre-fader effects in some situations with some effects, but if I can only have one, if it's not going to be switchable, I will take post fader all day, every day. Thank you very much. So I'm happy with that, because, you know, the general thing I'm using effects for is reverbs and echoes, and I want that post fader, I want that tail, and that's what you get with this. Return for that is the level for return is up there. So yeah, when it comes to the send and return, I have no complaints whatsoever. Moving up a bit further still, we have the isolator. Now this is fairly aggressive as isolators go. It's not the most aggressive, I don't think. I don't think it's like dope reel levels of aggressive, but it's more dope reel than it is master sounds. You know, if you're familiar with the Rotary stuff, that might make some sense to you. It's got a +12 boost and obviously a full cut on each one. Yeah, overall really happy with that. And again, the knobs, you know, they've got different levels to them. So these volume knobs here are lower down than the isolator and the main channel pots. So it gives you that kind of split level. These again are lower still. So it does feel very spacious. It is very spacious because it's big, but also, you know, you've got this split level kind of thing going on, which again really helps with the controllability of it. That's something that Alpha Theta got right with the Euphonia, with having the isolator on a different level at the top, and this is a similar kind of thing, but just they've achieved it by having different sizes of knobs. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. We have a mic, and I do really appreciate there is a mic input on this, and it's not even one of the channels switchable, it's just a separate mic circuit. Now I'm using it now, and it sounds pretty good, and it's got plenty of headroom. And yeah, I just appreciate that. It's a small thing, not everyone's gonna want it. But if you're doing live streaming or whatever, or if you're installing this in a venue, a mic circuit is handy, and it's got one there. And that's not something we see every day on a Rotary. But yeah, overall, as you can see, I'm just really enjoying playing with this thing. It's a very tactile experience. It encourages you to get hands-on and to work with your sound in a way that not every Rotary kind of achieves. They all set out to do that, but this one really does. It feels very playable. It feels like an instrument. It feels like something you could just work with. And just have, yeah, a lot of fun with. One thing I really appreciate about Wax Electronics is that they go super deep on the specs of the Precision 04 on their website, so I'll throw some of that up on the screen while I give my actual impressions. I like all this because it gives those who know what all that stuff means a chance to draw conclusions based on their expertise, and it also demonstrates that they're proud of their specs too, and really want to show off their attention to detail, a running theme with this mixer. What's interesting is that the Precision 04 contains a mixture of discrete and op-amp circuits. Wax have gone with what they think is best in each area rather than rigidly following one path. One quick note on the isolator, the switch to engage it is not entirely silent. There is no relay in the circuit for sound quality reasons, but that's what I expect on a mixer of this type. So don't go punching it in and out every 5 seconds, but if you do that every now and again on beat, it won't be noticeable. The mixer's output is overall incredibly clean sounding. It's not quite as unyieldingly flat as the Resor I reviewed before. That remains the gold standard for the strictest transparency, but it's pretty close. On the Precision, there is a touch more brightness in the high end, which tends to give vinyl in particular a little more sparkle. The mixer sounds very alive. I've only spent a limited amount of time with condenser mixers, but I'd say the Precision is kind of halfway between one of those and a Resor, having tons of transparency but also a bit of character. I tested a selection of carts through it and found even with my most transparent ones, the Autophon 2M Blue, the Precision 04 really delivered a warm, rounded low end whilst retaining all the detail in the highs. There seems to be absolutely minimal distortion too, which is especially noticeable in the mid-range, with vocals never breaking up or becoming shrill. What the mixer is not is any kind of bass monster. In my frequency response tests, I found none of the V-shaped profile found with most DJ mixers. On the Precision, it was virtually flat, with perhaps a tiny slope up towards the high end, and that's what was reflected in my listening tests. I was perfectly happy with this. I'd much prefer to add bass when desired instead of needing to pull it back. The summing quality is pretty spectacular too. It's more like the Resor than, say, the Master Sounds Valve, with the transparency meaning every element is still distinct in the mix, but it's all getting gelled together in a very pleasing way. This is a mixer which is all about balance and representing the source audio without too much coloration and minimal distortion. Ultimately, I'm just hugely impressed with how the Precision 04 sounds. It may be the company's first product, but the engineering here is obviously very mature, and every detail has been considered carefully. The sound is absolutely competitive in audio terms with the other mixers I've tested in this price range, whilst retaining its own unique flavour. I really hope it does well for them, because I think Wax Electronics deserve to be known about. Last I checked, there are no videos about the Precision 04 on YouTube at all, and so I'm happy to change that today. If you want a Rotary with next level attention to detail that truly stands out from the crowd, you won't go wrong with a Precision 04. So there you go, a look at the Precision 04 from Wax Electronics. I've been blessed to have had the opportunity to play with some incredible Rotaries over the past few years, and it never ceases to amaze me how new manufacturers are still able to set themselves apart from the crowd. And that's what Wax have done here, delivering the kind of awesome sound and build quality you expect at this price, but with some unique French flair in the style and design, managing to be both robust and chic. Thanks for watching this episode of Beatsource Tech. I do hope you've enjoyed it or found it useful. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you've turned on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. I'll see you next time.